one of the hardest parts of getting to this place of quote unquote success is understanding, for me at least, that I had to change so much of myself. And I think a lot of us have a negative relationship with changing ourselves. We think, well, I like the way I am, or I should be able to get to the level of success I want without having to change. And honestly, that's just not realistic for any of us.
Real sustainable success that is holistic is predicated on how much you grow as a person, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And you cannot grow unless you are willing to change.
Next Level Nation, today for episode number 2059, the truth about what you need to change in order to be more successful. You said you wanted to interview me on this topic. We realized that in the past, we did a lot more, you're a fly on the wall of a conversation. And then occasionally we get into like long monologues and we're just figuring out, how would we have a conversation if we didn't know anybody was going to hear it? And that's kind of the goal for today, at least.
I like that. I think that's where this started.
I agree.
I would like to go back that way. I said to you earlier.
That's the goal.
Bring everyone behind the scenes. I said to Kevin earlier, let's interview each other this week on something for 2 of the episodes. Thoughts? ? Topic of each other's choosing? ? He said, love it. Well, first he actually said, hold on. What did he actually say? He said, LOVEI space T. So, and then he said, love it, correction.
Yeah, spelling,
so here we are. Now we're doing it.
Is challenging when you're zipping through messages like, oop, misspelled there.
Stephen Covey wrote a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And in that book, he said, everything's created twice, once in the mind and once in reality. This was in my head. I texted Kev, WhatsApped Kev, and now it's happening. And now I'm wasting everyone's time. Okay. So Kevin and I talked off air, and I said, do you think you would have been successful had you not changed? Because you were a foreman for a weatherization company, and you made 6 figures in your mid-20s, and you achieved a far greater level of success than you had thought when you were at the gas station, wondering if you were going to be a townie and all that stuff. I'll let you tell it. But Kevin was someone who did not believe, and he's said this many times, so this is me saying what he said, that he didn't think he'd be successful. He didn't think he was one of those people. He didn't think he'd have a mansion. He didn't think he'd be one of those different people.
I still don't have a mansion, just FYI.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure everybody knows that.
But you do believe now that those things are possible, at least possible for you, right?
Yes,
in the future?
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
So at one point you didn't.
Right.
I remember we had a client and we were at their place and they do have a mansion and 48 acres and there's an elevator in it. And Kev said, dude, there's a fucking elevator in this house.
Wild.
And I was like, what does that even mean, brother? You're like, well, how many people, and this is what got it to land for me. You said, how many people are going to go into a house that has an elevator in it? And I had never really thought about it, I guess, but that was never something in my dreams. That was definitely something that you wanted eventually or thought. You used to watch Cribs.
I thought it would be cool.
MTV Cribs.
Yeah, I thought it would be cool for sure.
Right. Okay. So 8 years ago, you were my first guest on my podcast. I was your first guest. And then we started to go off to the races together. And we changed fucking everything. I mean, we just worked and went back to the drawing board and worked and went back to the drawing board and worked and went back to the drawing board. And this is working and this isn't working and this is working and this isn't working. And what do we do? And who do we need? And who do we mentor? And who do we get mentored by? And what do we do? And it's been an iterative process for 8 years now of what do we need to change, including a coaching call we did before this. Mm-hmm. What did you think was gonna, what did you think your life was gonna be versus what it is now?
That's always a hard question because I didn't really have any idea what it would be. There was no, so I went from making like $15 an hour doing house renovations to getting that job that eventually put me above 6 figures. I was convinced that was what I was going to do forever. That was what I was convinced of. And I wonder if I didn't start podcasting, if I ever would have thought of leaving that job. I don't know. I may never have thought of leaving that job. I knew there was an expiration date in terms of years. Like, you can only crawl around in attics for so long. But I took care of myself. I mean, I'm
Was there
36.
a pension at that company? Or
God,
401k or any of that?
God, no. No.
Did you ever think about investing for your retirement or anything?
Yes. When I was a truck driver / forklift operator.
Apple, right?
I did, but they had like 401k match and all that. And so I was aware of it. I just don't know how long I would have waited.
I think Emilia and I talked about this yesterday too. I think the idea of retirement is sort of invented in the industrial age and all that. And a lot of people, if you research this, there's a lot of research on this. A lot of people die earlier when they retire because they have less purpose.
One of the channels we produce is a channel, it's called Retirement Transformed. And it's literally all about how they retired, and the first year, a couple of years, they like drank bottles of wine for dinner and all this stuff. And they ended up wildly miserable. And they talk about how retirement is a rediscovery phase as opposed to like you just do nothing. Like, you rediscover or discover for the first time parts of yourself that you just never had the time or space or awareness to do. So yeah, I think there's like a lot of science out there that talks about that.
Yeah, for sure. When you lack purpose, and you got to do something, right? So you can only sip margaritas on the beach for so long before you want to build something. Okay. So for you, one of the main questions, this topic, the point of this interview is, what did you need to change in hindsight? Like, what is very clear to you now? So as someone who has built a business that is extremely successful, all things considered, in this industry, top 1% of 1% of 1%, co-built, I'll say co-built.
I did it all myself, damn it.
I did it myself, asshole. That's a movie quote. But as someone who has co-built a very successful business, as someone who never thought that was in their future, what is so obvious in hindsight? Because we produce and or work with, so I crunch these numbers every single day. We're over 100 podcasters and business owners that we coach, produce, mentor, just work with consistently. Month over month, we work with them all consistently. So you kind of have a good idea now at this point, what's going to win, what's not, what's going to win, what's not, what works, what doesn't. So what is obvious in hindsight that you just had to change if you wanted to be successful?
One, the easiest one for me to get to is always, I had a super, super fixed mindset. I was convinced I was the way I was, and I was going to be that way forever, and there was nothing I could do to change that. That was a massive one. Like, when did
that pivot?
After I read Mindsets by Carol Dweck. At least it started.
When did it start to pivot?
Then. When
did you read that? I don't even remember. So when you were playing MLB Grand Slam or whatever it is, I don't know, and you were listening to Rich Dad, Poor Dad, you don't think it was shifting then?
Not really. No, not really.
Because if it was, you probably wouldn't have been listening to a book in the background.
Look, I was multitasking. Some people would have the audacity to call that habit stacking, but I do it and I'm the asshole. You know what I mean? But I do it the way I want to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm the bad guy.
Were you absorbing the book?
Less than I thought. For sure. But that was me. Look, if somebody came to me and said, I want to get into audiobooks, I don't know how to do it, I wouldn't. Would I advise that? No, but I would say, like, yeah, if that works for you, start the train. You can't do that forever. Right? You're not going to learn that much if every audiobook you listen to is like the second thing you're doing while playing video games. But if that's how you started it and it got you into it, I'm an example that you can do that, and then eventually,
nice.
You get rid of the crutches, you get rid of the training wheels. That would be one. Second one.
I'm not done with that one. Real quick. Hold on.
Okay.
Fixed mindset. How? How does someone overcome a fixed mindset rather than some book? Like, how did you actually take that book and put it into practice?
Man, I took it personally how every example she used about a fixed mindset, like, hit me. Like, I took that personally. It was like, oh my goodness, I could see myself in the classroom being the kid who doesn't ask questions.
How did you not see that as an attack? Like, when you read the book, how did you not say, fuck this book and throw it out the window?
Because there was no ego in it. It was coming from what seemed like a very heart-driven, researched place. It wasn't a dude screaming at me. It was a woman reading a book about how she studied all this. And it was like, yeah, no, that's fair.
Who recommended that book?
Probably you, I'd have to guess. I don't know.
I don't think so, because that was never one of my main ones. I didn't understand. There's 4 mindsets that I use in my coaching. There's super fixed, growth, and super growth. And I found out there's actually restrictions to super growth. Where that super growth is basically you think you can do pretty much anything with everybody. Fucking dumb. You can't. And you try to do everything because you think you can do anything, and you realize through massive pain and failure. Aim too high, you get humble pie. Aim too low, you don't grow. The super fixed mindset aims too low and doesn't grow. And the super growth mindset aims too high and eventually matures and realizes they're screwed if they don't make some changes. So both of us made changes. But back to the fixed mindset thing. I don't think I recommended that book, because that's not a book I recommend to this day, dude. I recommend books all the time, but I don't. And I honestly, I think I probably should. I think that's a good place to start. I do. I think it's a great book, but it's not one of my go-tos.
Maybe it was when, remember there was an app I used. I don't remember the name of it, but it would literally summarize a book for you, and you could read an entire book. And again, you weren't reading it, but it was summarizing in like 15 minutes.
I forget what it was called.
I could find it at some point. I think it was probably 2018.
So it was one of the recommended ones on the app.
I think I searched mindset because I was looking for mindset books, and I think that one came up. That's when I don't think you recommended the 4 Tendencies.
No.
I don't even know where that came. That might have, was it my wonderful wife?
I think so.
I'll ask her. I don't remember. I don't remember.
One of our old listeners, Tom and Emily.
Maybe.
I think there was a bunch of books that whole crew was circling through.
I don't remember where it came from. I just remember resonating with it. I remember resonating with the fact of like, I was kind of the person that was being used in the negative example. And then I think one of the best things I ever did, again, you got to strike while the iron's hot. And if you feel really high in a high emotional state, you got to take action. I went through a really challenging breakup, as we've talked before, which led me to like my initial rock bottom. And it just got to the point where I was like, okay, I need to get out of this funk. This whole pity party I'm throwing for myself, it's gotten old. I'm the only person here that's partying. Like, let me figure this out.
How long did you stay in the pity party?
Honestly, not that. Probably a month.
Yeah.
Like, not a crazy amount of time. But I remember I said, all right, I'm going to get dressed up. I'm going to go get a haircut. I'm going to go hit the gym. I'm going to feel good about myself. And I'm going to go to the mall. I'm just going to start conversations with strangers. Like, that's what I'm going to do. And we're going to see what happens. And I remember it was like, I left with like an emotional high. Like, that was really not that bad. Everybody was super nice. And I don't know if anybody's judging me. I think they're judging themselves on the fact that I'm so outgoing in this moment. That helped me understand how to do it. That was a really big piece of it. And the thing, like the podcast at that point was just a fun passion project. So I had to have at least a little bit of a growth mindset to understand that I'm going to put this out there and see what happens. And I think I can get better at it, and I think I can improve, and I think I can learn. I mean, I just learned how to do the podcasting thing. So I think it all aligned at a really nice time where the podcast was something that pushed me into growth. And it was something that I really enjoyed doing. And it was like the first thing I really enjoyed doing in a long time that felt like it had purpose and passion behind it. So that would be that. I think the other thing that maybe the most important thing, which is very attached to that, is I have had to rebuild. I have had to break up with, divorce, remarry, go to therapy with, go to counseling with my relationship with failure. Like, that has been maybe the biggest thing ever, is just, I hated failure. Failure was bad. Failure makes you a failure. Failure means you're a loser. It means you're not smart enough. You'll never be successful. That was one of the biggest things that I had to redesign and refocus on and rebuild my relationship with, because for most of my life, failure meant end of the road, not beginning of a brighter new road. And I've worked with a lot of people who have that. Oh, I can't fail. I'm going to look bad. It's like, no, if we do not fix this, you are in a lot of trouble. Trust me. Trust me. I understand. I know. I don't want to fail either. I still don't like it, but now I appreciate it. It still sucks and it hurts, but now I know the benefits of it. I don't wake up and say, all right, let's go fail today. But when it happens, which it's going to, I think I just have a better relationship with it at this point.
Hello, NLU listener. Thank you, as always, for listening to Next Level University. Real quick, I just want to jump in and let you know about the Next Level Dreamliner. This is a journal that I use every single day. Achieve your dreams 90 days at a time. It breaks down your dreams into goals, milestones, and daily habits. We hope you enjoy it. The link will be in the show notes. Two things came up. One, Emilia's family her dad's an entrepreneur, and he has something called KIP, Keep It Positive. KIP, Keep It Positive. And I think that's where you got to start if you're in negative town. But then eventually you can't just be positive all the time. You also got to play defense as well as offense. That's why it's so confusing, because if anyone out there watching or listening hears, well, maybe I should get dressed up, get a haircut, and go to the mall, like, it depends where you are. I mean, if you and I did that today, that would be a mistake for our company, because you're doing more. Let me share this briefly. I had a client reach out to me. He said this yesterday. You know who you are, brother. He said, bought domain for blank, got my email for blank, got my Zoom account for blank, Calendly is set up, workout app done. Check. Sent me an audio, 47 seconds. He said, brother, that took me months back in the day when I started my first business. I just did it in 3 hours. And I said, yeah, man, that's the power of personal development. It's insane what you become capable of as your work on yourself compounds. It'd be nice if I can fucking read. Oh my God.
I always get nervous when it's my turn to read something on the podcast. It's like, all right, I got to slow down here. I'm going to mess this up.
Well, one of the 26 impact points of effective communication is pacing. Thanks to Kev. Yeah, man, that's the power of personal development. It's insane what you become capable of. You'd think I didn't write this. I actually write with this, and I can't even talk. Of as your work on yourself compounds. Whoa. I accomplish more in 1 week now than I used to in 6 months. Wild. And I don't know if my point of this is, like, 8 years ago, you went to the mall and that was progress. That would not be progress today. That'd be a terrible idea today. So how do you explain?
Yeah, but here's the thing. It would still be progress if we elevated it. If we elevated it so it was outside of the comfort zone, it still could be progress.
What, like have an NLU booth in the middle of in the mall or something?
If I went up to if the thing we decided to do is, all right, we're going to do a new content strategy. Kev, I want you to go to the mall and I want you to walk up to somebody and say, hey, when did you stop chasing your dreams? That would be uncomfortable.
Whoa.
Right?
And I'm recording?
Somebody. Doesn't have
to. First, it wouldn't to ask if we could record.
It wouldn't be you, because that would be a whole thing, right? Then there's two of us. That's a whole thing. But yeah, that whole process of, hey, I would love to ask you a question. It's a little bit deep and it's going to be used on social media. I probably wouldn't start there, right? Because that wouldn't work, most likely. But that level of discomfort or outside of comfort zone, I think it can be constructive. Yeah.
Okay, so that's the fixed mindset. Where do you think you are now? Super fixed growth, or super growth?
I still embarrassingly have moments where things go wrong. I feel like a failure and I start to question my capabilities. Way less than ever. But something happened last week. I don't remember what it was. When my state goes down, I start to question my abilities. So it's still not fully locked in that no matter what, there is a level of malleability, whatever the proper, like, you can adjust and you can mold yourself and you can work on yourself, even if it's a little bit. So it's the best it's ever been, but it's probably at like a 7 out of 10.
That's how I always felt in relationships. Just
Makes
constantly,
sense.
Why? I don't get it, right? But I don't have that as much. I don't have that with the capabilities thing. But I definitely do when it comes to relationships. I don't understand. What just happened? Why are you upset with me? It makes no sense. Okay, and again, I think everyone out there has either one one of those two or both. I think a lot of people have both. Okay, next piece was you had mentioned what? Your relationship with failure. So how did you change that?
Unfortunately, this is always the unfortunate part, I just had failures. Small ones. Small ones. If you're afraid of failure, maybe the best place to start is by starting at a place of failing where you're not afraid. That's the best advice I can give. Do something stupid it's silly to you. Like, well, I don't really care if it goes wrong. Okay, cool. Let go. Again, I don't know if I have a really good example of this because it's very personal. It depends. But go get rejected in a way that does not hurt your self-esteem. The thing that helped me was almost trying to get rejected in ways expecting to get rejected, so it's not a surprise. That I don't know if I have any really good tangible takeaways. There was a TED Talk by, I think it was this guy who
100 rejections. Yeah,
tried to get rejected 100 times. Mm-hmm. And I remember he went into like a donut shop and said, "Hey, can you make like a donut in like the Olympic rings?" Expecting to get rejected. And a lot of the times he expected to get rejected, he didn't. And what he learned about himself was he was avoiding all sorts of opportunities based on the fact that he thought he was going to get rejected. And then when he did get rejected, it didn't hurt him nearly as bad as he thought. And I just think it's one of those things where if you're afraid the water's too deep and you're going to drown and you dip your toe in and realize you can touch the bottom, then you can step in the water and then you can go a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper. So we just have to figure out what the constructive amount is. So that was it for me, is I just got rejected gently and I failed gently. And then that allowed me and built the foundation for me to get rejected less gently and fail less nicely.
When we were kids, all of us developed these narratives, and I've been learning a lot about this. There's a record playing. You and I gave a speech in Pittsburgh where I tried to explain this. Some of us have the record playing of "you got this, you can do it, you got this, you can do it," and those people need to stay very humble. That would be me. I basically think, yeah, I can do this, I got it. Yeah, I can do this. So often my expectation is that it will go well, and then it doesn't. But here's the thing. When it doesn't go well, I don't say, "Oh, I'm not good enough." I go to the drawing board. What did I do wrong? Like what? Not me. It's not tied to me. What was the input that was ineffective?
Yeah.
And if you have a core wound similar to Kev's, anyone out there watching or listening, it basically validates your deepest fear. And for me, the unlovable core wound, whenever something would go wrong with a friend or a family member and it didn't make any fucking sense, it would be like, okay, I am not lovable or a good person or a good friend or and it would rock me. And I've witnessed you're like, "No, it's all whatever. Like that wasn't going to work anyway."
Well,
it's
it's not my thing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I've seen you bomb speeches and you're just like, "Yeah, whatever, man." Like, dude, no, I need to go lay down. I feel physically, I need to.
I feel physically ill.
We bombed a speech in, it was a training more than a speech, but I remember thinking like, I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to do that again. Like that, I don't know if I'm ever going to be right. Like? You didn't care at all. You were almost like excited. You're like, "Fuck yeah."
Seriously?
Yeah, we went and we got Domino's and then we talked about it and you were just laughing. I remember we did it. We left. It was like we had just won the Super Bowl the Super Bowl's play. We had just won the championship game and we were the away team in the home team's arena, and we were just walking down the tunnel and people might as well have been throwing beer at us. Like it was bad. It was not good.
Yeah, the walk of shame.
The walk of shame. I remember when we got into the car and sat down, you and I just looked at each other and started laughing hysterically. Just laughing hysterically.
Yeah, that one you let me be the front runner on.
It was just that. You didn't.
You just slunked into the corner, man. I remember.
I said, "Look, man, you're going to have to take this.
Yeah.
This is on you."
Self-preservation.
You were no different. You were no different than you were before.
I know we got to jump soon. I got an interview in 5 minutes. But I want to ask you this. what can you say to people? Because here's the deal. I had no idea that was the way I was. Like, dude, I bombed my first, I remember my first engineering course was fucking brutal. I mean, I'm talking bad. Like, signal analysis, like figuring out how your phone decodes signals from satellites. Like, it was fucking terrible. Okay? And these are the super geniuses of the world that just ruin every fucking bell curve. And I partied the whole night before. And I would just bomb these tests. And I would be like, fuck. I have to find friends to help me. And one of my roommates, his name's Sean, he was top in the entire country in electronics. So we just had him teach us everything, right? He was really good at that. And it was, oh, thank goodness. Because if you don't get the right people around you, you are screwed. I mean, you're just screwed. And that's facts. Like, you got to get the right people around you if you want a certain outcome. But I never was like, oh, I'm not smart enough. Never once did I question whether or not I could do it. I just questioned my approach. It didn't mean I'm not smart enough. It just meant my approach sucked. Like, of course, you partied last night. That was dumb. Don't do that again. Especially for this fucking class. I mean, God. But for you, it's you question your own abilities. You question your identity. It's an identity thing. I had no idea before Kev that people are... The way that I feel when a friendship goes bust is the way you feel after bombing a speech. Mm-hmm. You just feel terrible about yourself. You're confused and you're hurt and you need to take a nap or whatever. Like, lick your wounds. Go in a bubble and eat some food and watch a movie. That's what I do. What is it like to work with someone who isn't affected by failure?
It's terrible. Because that means we're guaranteed to get way more failure than I want. / might be constructive. It's hard because I've worked with you longer than I've worked with anybody, right? So yeah, it's almost like there's certain icebergs that I can see that we're going to hit. I knew we were going to bomb that fucking training. I knew you didn't prep for it. I knew we were going to bomb that training. That's why I let you step out and
stuff. That's some good stuff. 25 impact points of effective communication.
That's why I let you step out and like kind of get hit by the train, because it's like you can handle it more than I can.
Yeah. To make this more relevant to the listener, how many people out there are like me in this, giving advice in the personal development space?
I think most people in the self-improvement, personal development space, business space have super high self-belief. They don't understand.
So how do you help people who are on your end to like filter through that shit?
The fundamental, Gary Vee had this video, and again, I hated Gary Vee for a long time, then I loved him for a long time. All things considered, I think he does give pretty good advice, although it's often very simple. This guy was like, yeah, I'm trying to get people to give me money for my business. He's like, how many people did you message, bro? And he's like, dude, so many people. He's like, bro, how many people did you fucking message? Dude, so many. I couldn't. How many? He's like, 10. He's like, dude, 10? 10? You need to message 1,000.
That's what I would say.
I wouldn't. I'd say 10's a really good start, my man, but
that ain't gonna do it.
Let me give you the percentage, right? You message 1,000 people, you might get 10 people that get back to you. You message 10. This is totally normal. Yeah, no, it's totally normal. You've been lied to. You just need to send some more messages, but I'd start very, very small.
You've been lied to. I do think that's true. I think we've all been super lied to.
I do. I think so,
because from the outside in, everything's different from the inside out. It's so obvious, right? I mean,
well, it's a cred
I talk
hit.
about that actress who's been doing it for 28 years before Divergent. And
yeah.
Some people do actually pop off in 3 years.
Yeah,
rarely. That's the rarity. But no one comes out and says, hey, by the way, I got lucky.
Yeah, well, that's a piece of it. We highlight anomalies. Nobody wants to hear about the person it took them 50 years to get success. Nobody wants to hear that. They want to hear about somebody who posted 2 videos and went viral and now...
I don't understand that at all. I want to hear about the 40 years of failure. 100%.
I know, but most people don't think they can fail for 40 years and then get successful. So it's like, of course.
Yeah, 100%.
Of course. All
right, well, this was fire.
Yeah, I have a bunch more, so maybe we'll do a part 2. I don't know. We'll see. I have one that I didn't mention that needs to be mentioned for sure.
Let's do it.
We'll see. All right.
It's our show. Let's do it.
It is our show. Next Level Nation, if you are looking for a group of like-minded people, we will have the link in the show notes. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. Grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we do not have fans. We have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Keep it next level. Next Level Nation.